end of my second year, beginning of my third year, and I went, I don't want to do this.
Your name?
Mallory.
Age?
39.
Where you come from?
I was born in Alaska and I lived in Minnesota, but I've kind of lived around the Midwest as well as the Pacific Northwest.
And what was your college and major?
I got a Bachelor's of Science in Speech, Language, and Hearing Sciences with an emphasis in pre-audiology, and then I got a doctorate degree in audiology.
What do your parents do?
My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she did work part-time while I was kind of in the middle school time frame as a speech pathology assistant for a kiddo that had autism. And then my dad had a tech degree. He was an electrician.
If you could be a tree, what would you be like?
Oh, what kind of tree would I be? That's a good question. I've always kind of been drawn to the weeping willow trees. I like those, that just kind of long, draping down towards the water, beautiful look, and the gentle breeze. I feel like I'd identify with that kind of tree.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. You were the first person in your family that go to college, actually, right?
Yeah. So if we look at like my mom and her siblings and all those cousins, and my dad had a sister and those cousins, I'm the first one to go through and get not just a bachelor's degree, but then go on and get that higher level degree too. My dad went to a 2-year trade school.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of figuring it out as I went along.
What does that identity mean to you?
You know, it's strange. I never thought of it as being a big deal until I was in college and seeing other people whose parents had gone to college and things that they knew about the system that I didn't know and was just kind of finding out in real time. I had a lot of inner strength and that helped me through it, and I made some mistakes along the way, but...
What kind of mistakes can you...
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I was in high school, I did some college courses as well through the community college. And then I had just always been really set on what I thought I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be a pharmaceutical engineer and work in a lab, and I wanted to do that for so many years. And the time came to go to college, and I was accepted to this private school for it and everything, and I just kind of panicked and didn't want to go. It was far away, and I really struggled from that point forward to find a major. And I didn't know what professions were out there, and so I kind of bounced around to a couple of colleges and a lot of different majors before I found something that really spoke to me and I felt comfortable with. So I was taking actions, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And you're young, right? You're 19, 20 years old and trying to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And that's big. Well, you lose a lot of credits when you transfer. And that I think was probably my biggest mistake, is when you transfer without a full degree, not everything transfers over. And so when I transferred from one semester to another, some things transferred, some things didn't. But once I was at Minnesota State Moorhead, and the architecture thing wasn't working out, the speech program was right there on campus. So I was able to take a couple trial classes in that and said, yeah, this is interesting. So it was the start of my junior year. I really needed to declare a major and focus in if I wanted to be on time to graduate.
I see.
And so I got into the speech program. I thought it was interesting. And then I took a course in audiology that was required through it and thought, wow, this is really cool. It fit more with how my brain worked, which is this kind of mathematical science, biology kind of mindset. And there's lots of toys in audiology, tools and gadgets and things like that. So I liked it, and I really buckled down and did summer classes and everything as well, and managed to graduate a semester early, actually. So,
cool.
So when you graduate with your bachelor's degree in speech and hearing sciences, you have to pick a path. You can either go on and get a 2-year master's degree in speech pathology and become a speech pathologist. So helping people with TBI, like brain injuries or stroke, or kids with speech issues and things like that. Or you can take this 4-year doctorate program for audiology. And I chose the 4-year doctorate audiology program. During the 4-year degree program, it's 3 years of coursework. You're seeing patients in the university clinic during that time. And then you go on, and your final year is actually an offsite 1-year internship program.
End of my second year, beginning of my third year. And I went, I don't want to do this.
This isn't it. This isn't what I want to do. But at that point, you're in it. I'm 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of graduate school, halfway there, 2 years before I'm done. You're in it with loans. And if you quit now, you don't have a degree you can do anything with. You have an uncompleted doctorate degree. Mm-hmm. So even though it didn't feel like I was in the exact right place, and looking at it, I'm like, this isn't a career that I can do until I'm 65. This isn't it. Oh, what am I doing?
How does that feel?
Uncertain, a bit of panic.
But I knew if I just pushed forward and got that degree, at the end of it, you've got your doctorate, right? It's just 2 more years
to get a degree.
And you got a degree.
Ph.D.
And, and you can do something with it.
You may not love it, but you're good at it. You can do it. And so I pushed through.
And I went and I did my internship year in a very small private practice in Southern Oregon. Mm-hmm. Graduated, and I was about 2 months post-graduation when I just really didn't know what to do next, because I didn't want to do it anymore.
And here I've got student loans, and the payments are going to start coming due, and now what?
Back then, which I was 26 years old, we don't really know ourselves that much yet. But what I know now is I'm neurodivergent myself. And so I have ADHD, and being in that clinic environment where you're just doing kind of the same thing every day, the same routine in a clinic, was almost like torture for me, because it was just so repetitive. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that it was because I had ADHD at the time. I thought everybody just wanted to be on the go. And I loved helping people. Audiology is an interesting doctorate in the fact that you are a doctor that nobody wants to go see.
Hi.
Nobody wants to be told that you have hearing loss and now you need to wear hearing aids. It becomes this kind of symbol of aging. It's disencouraging.
You get refused to.
Yeah. And then what you really become is very heavily someone who's trying to counsel someone and motivate them to change their ways. And that's a difficult thing to do. We don't like to change, really.
That sounds like sales.
It is. Yeah, it is sales. And I don't think I knew at the time that was the part that I was good at. Because when you're kind of in school for stuff, people talk about industry and sales as kind of this bad thing. But I was starting to realize, like, well, I like helping people, and I like offering this product and offering something to help people's lives be better. But this day-to-day routine isn't a fit. How do I make this different? And I didn't have an answer at the time. What's next? What do I do now? And I think I can look back at it now and realize that what I'm really good at and what I'm really passionate about is learning. I love to learn new things. I love to kind of become an expert on newer niche things. But I did not know that then. And I know it now. And so I reached out to a mentor that I had had while I was in school and said, I don't know what to do. I'm not happy. I got to figure something out. And he had also kind of gone through a reinvention at that time, had left the university, was working in sales for the hearing testing equipment. So actually the big machines that we use to test hearing and the sound booths and all of that. And he said, well, we have a position in Oregon that just opened up. And, I know the guy that's doing the interview process. So if you'd like to apply, I could connect you with him. And I'm like, yeah, why not? So I met the guy. He did the interview process. He offered me the job. And I came home and was like, we got to move. I got a new job. That got me into sales. And every job that I've kind of had through my sales career, I've been fortunate to meet some very interesting people in each of those jobs that I've been able to learn something from and use that kind of as my stepping stone for whatever came next. And that first job, I was working with a very, very seasoned sales representative. He'd been in the job for many years. He was very close to retirement, but he had a lot to offer from a knowledge perspective. And that was great. I learned a lot from him, but it was also very eye-opening because the sales industry as a whole is very male dominated. It's heavily male industry.
What's the ratio when you were there?
So at that company in particular, it was made up of a bunch of smaller mom and pop businesses that had all been bought by a larger company. So when we went to our first sales meeting, there was probably 120 of us there. There were 10 females. That was a shock because audiology is a very female heavy profession.
Oh, really?
But even on all of the audiology related sales jobs, they tend to be pretty heavily male industry. And so it was eye-opening to look around that room and say, oh, I love this and this is great. But I am definitely not the most common face in this room. And there's kind of a drive to prove yourself in that situation. I did that job for a little while. I learned a lot. I'm 26, 27, running my own territory. But
even though I didn't have the self-confidence yet to know that I was good at what I was doing, the people around me saw that I was good.
And that first manager that I had, I don't think that for a second he thought I couldn't do anything. I'll never forget him calling one day and saying, hey, we need a physical office location in Portland. So I need you to find us a space to rent and then send me over the lease and I'll sign it. And then you got to, get the furniture and everything. And we need to hire an admin for the office. I'm like, what?
I've never done that before.
I've never rented a commercial space. I rent apartments. And so I figured it out. Google was my friend, but it didn't occur to him that I couldn't do that. And it didn't occur to me that I couldn't. And I did figure it out. We found a great office and picked out the furniture and hired an admin and created that space. And it was a real strong feeling of accomplishment after having done that.
So you didn't feel confident when you get that task, but like when you were actually you done that,
afterwards, afterwards I was able to look back and say, okay, I might be able to do this. Yeah, I might know what I'm doing. Cool. And then it kind of like I did that for a while. I knew I liked sales, but it still wasn't quite the right fit. And so I transitioned to another job where I was covering a really, really large area. I was doing hearing aid sales for a large company, but the territory was massive. I was covering 8 or 9 states. I was traveling most days of the week. I was home Saturday and Sunday, and then I was usually out the door again Monday.
How does that feel? Like,
it was exhausting. But you get to see a lot of places and meet a lot of people. And from there, kind of made the connections that I needed to make to get the job that I thought I really, really wanted. It was kind of the carrot that I've been working for at this point, which was working for Cochlear and working with cochlear implants specifically. I loved them when I was in school. I liked the idea of working with that because this is working with patients who are profoundly deaf, have significant hearing loss, adults and children, and they're actually putting an implant into the ear that they wear with an external processor. And when I got that job, I was so excited because I felt like everything I'd been working for a really long time. And I did really enjoy that job. I worked there for several years. I made some of the closest friends that I've ever had and still am very close with from that. And it was going great and I really loved it. And then I just kind of got to a point where I felt like I'd mastered it and it wasn't a challenge anymore. And
then you're ready to move on.
I was ready to jump. Yeah, it's kind of the theme of my life.
But it was kind of like you'd had this dream for so long and now you've achieved it and you're good at it and you're confident in it. Now what? What's next? And then my manager at the time left and went over to sales for a company that did deep brain stimulators. And after she left, she had called me and said, I think you'd really love this. So if you're ever thinking about leaving, call me. And I wasn't at the time. I was actually pregnant with my first child, and it just wasn't a good time to transition. But after we had our first child, I was like, yeah, I'm ready for that next challenge. Kind of once the fog of sleep deprivation and everything wears off. And I made the jump, and she was right. I loved it. It is so cool. I have such a different path to get into this kind of sales than most people have. Most people that are doing this kind of medical device sales don't have a medical degree. Some of them do have like a biomedical engineering degree. A lot of them have business degrees. But it was really surprising for me to kind of come into this, and it felt like a really big risk. I didn't have this kind of safety net of I'm an audiologist anymore. That degree didn't really matter when I made the transition because deep brain stimulator has nothing to do with hearing. Your audiology degree is no good here. But when I was going through the interview process, the gentleman that was interviewing me said, I know you don't know anything about deep brain stimulators right now,
but you have a doctorate degree. I know we can teach you anything.
So it's a great acknowledgement.
Of okay,
past.
Yeah, I can do this. And
it's not a waste.
It's not a waste. It is for good. And it's been very fun. I've worked for 2 companies now doing this deep brain stimulator job. And I have a hard time seeing myself do anything else because it's really fun. We're working specifically with people who have Parkinson's disease, essential tremor, dystonia, and epilepsy. And we place these electrodes in these very specific centers within the brain. And then they have a little battery that's inside the chest that powers the electrodes. And we can change the stimulation, and it helps reduce those symptoms that people are suffering from. So either the seizure frequency and severity, or with Parkinson's, reducing the tremor and the movement symptoms that are really debilitating for people with Parkinson's. It can be really, really significant for this population. What I hear so much from patients after they get it is, I wish I'd done this sooner. And it's kind of funny because I always had this, even from early childhood, a deep interest in medical. I was always very medically inclined and science inclined. And my dad having his electrician degree, and for me to have now found a way to kind of combine these two things, the electrical stuff that I learned from my dad when I was a kid in the human body. It's a really cool confluence of interests and how I got here. If you had asked me when I was in high school or even college if I knew this existed, not a clue. It's one of those worlds you don't know about until you discover it, and then you love it.
Cool. You realize learning is the biggest motivation for you.
Yes.
When did you start to realize it?
I think I started to realize that probably about 5 years ago, that was what was driving me more than anything, was learning new stuff.
Underneath the motivation of learning, what is the deeper motivation? Why do you want to keep learning?
Oh, that's $1 million question, I think. I wish I knew the answer to that.